Hello, very nice to be here. It's actually quite exciting being here. This is something that I think you're going to find um, informative, enlightening. There's a split that's occurring, and we've been talking about this split for actually a number of years. It's the split between that third dimensional game board that we've all grown up on and lived and played by the rules and structures of the game, and another story, another opportunity, another choice, a fifth dimensional state that is very, very different. This fifth dimensional state of being, as we've talked about so many times, is a place where there is no baggage. That all of that, I'm not okay, I don't fit, nobody likes me, I'm unhappy, that doesn't happen in this fifth dimensional space that we're all stepping into. But right here, there's a split that is unfolding and it's beginning to accelerate. We'll talk about acceleration in a moment. And in this evolution of where we're going, both that third dimensional space, which is beginning to feel disruption because it can't continue. We can't continue in domination, control, imposition, greed, power over. That can't continue as we evolve into this fifth multidimensional space where all of that doesn't exist. So let me just step back a little bit and start from a place where the question really is, who are you to play here? Now, in the first place, this is your play. This is 100% about you. You came here to participate in a game, and you are playing in your game. You're the lead actor, actress in your game. Everything else is props and staging and backdrops, and all of the people that you bump into, they're all lead actors in their game and they're sub-actors in your game. But this is your game. Now, what gets really interesting about the game where we're playing right now is it is loosening up, and what was no longer is. And so if you always do what you've always done, in the past, you would always get what you've always gotten. That is no longer true. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to find that very different considerations begin to show up on your plate. Considerations that will both be exciting and very much not exciting if you continue to hold your attention in the third dimensional game. One of the things humans have a great love for is labels. Oh, we love to label things. Once we label something, then we know what it is. We know what it is in relationship to where I am, and I have a certainty about my environment, about my conditionality, about my circumstances. If you continue to hold on to those labels, continue to define the world by your labels, as I have always done, you're going to find a lot of interruption because the labels don't work. If you look at just the language that is being used in the world, how quickly a certain word that meant X before all of a sudden means something completely different to a new generation. And so that's this transition. That's this split. But this split is now accelerating. It's going faster and faster. And it's really very exciting if you are able to pause, step back, and pay attention to the kind of stop and go signals, the opportunity to allow kind of the world to move around you without having to engage. So let's do this. Let's go back a little way for the purpose of just hearing it again. So many of you in Mastering Alchemy, you've heard this over and over, but let's just establish a framework. And for those that haven't been playing here, let's see if we can create a backdrop, a setting for your play as it goes forward. Long about 2016, there began to be an acceleration, and the acceleration began to present itself in places that were not fitting the labels. It's all of a sudden people were doing things that were different, saying things that were different, things that were taken for granted as truths in the 3D game board, all of a sudden weren't being expressed in the same way. That acceleration is continued, and to a great extent, what you're watching in the third dimensional game is the third dimensional game is going away. Again, you can't continue to play in domination, greed, etc. So that third dimensional game is falling away. And there is a fifth dimensional game that is expanding, and it's something where it became real apparent back in about 2020 that there were opportunities being provided for two or more to gather and basically align in an agreement, a vibration, a well-being, love, kindness, respect, dignity, gratitude, graciousness. And more people began to say, yes, this is what we want. This is how we want to live our life. This is a realm of consciousness that we would like to experience. And so an experience was put together. We called it the Park Bench Project. And so almost 5,000 people gathered for well over 30 months to sit on the park bench, just observe beauty and well-being, and begin to set an agreement in place. See, everything's about agreements. Set an agreement. This is where I want to live. This is how I wish to experience myself. This is the architecture that I wish to live my life within, and humanity. And so over that period of time, a realm of consciousness was created. Now, let me be really clear, was created. A density began to come into form. Oh, it's not something where you can touch and feel exactly right now, but as you begin to put your attention there, something is happening. And then out of that architecture began to have more density, more shape, the landscape began to take presence, the environment began to take hold. And so it began to be referenced as the octave. It was just a jump up from where we went. It was getting out of the noise and kind of stepping to the side and finding the side operated very differently. It was comfortable. It was the octave, one elevated jump of a vibrational field. As you begin to play in the octave, you begin to find that it stayed in your awareness. It stayed in your consciousness. The joy stayed a little longer. And the architecture began to be more of joy and ease, and there was a buoyancy. That buoyancy became interesting. A change in gravity. Where did that come from, gravity? We'll get there in a moment. There began to be more light in this space, and the more you stayed there, the more it lingered. And so, pretty exciting. But then we got to last year in the Equinox, last 2023, spring equinox. And something very, very specific happened. It was called Heaven's Crosses. There are a couple of us teachers who basically held that attention point. It was a splitting of the veils. It was an opening of the veils. It was an ability to step from one timeline, in a manner of speaking, one consciousness into a different consciousness. Beginning to be more and more clear, there was something bigger in the process here. Veils, opportunities. And we went to the summer solstice, and following up on that opening in the veils, consciousness began to speak. And in a way, that consciousness began to say to you, to everybody who was pausing, listening, consciousness began to say, I'm going to present in intelligence and knowledge and wisdom what goes on in these other realms, what goes on in these other aspects of consciousness. You see, consciousness is layers and layers and layers of choices. That's it. There's no the heaven. There's layers, multiple choices of opportunity. And so that consciousness began to take form in thoughts and feelings and considerations and choices that hadn't thought of that before. I heard many, many people say. And then we went into the equinox in the fall. And this was a little surprising because it was just one word. The word was smooth. Smooth. That was kind of weird, I thought. But it all pans out kind of fascinating. So paying attention, smooth. And it turns out that when you began to put your attention in smooth and allowed the intelligence and the knowledge and the wisdom, and you were experiencing yourself in the octave, pieces began to fall in place that were exciting. Pieces began to fall away that weren't exciting. You all of a sudden started finding yourself in circumstances that in the past would have been challenging, and now that it was a lot smoother. Things just began to happen. And then we went into December and this winter solstice. And this one presented in a way that it wasn't clear, but that's not the right word. It wasn't full, it was deep. You'd look into it and you'd go, wow, this is really big, but I can't grasp it all. And the energetic was very feminine. Now, this word is going to become too small for what this energy is, but it began to create an illumination. It began to create a light that was just in the background, and it began to create an awareness and an opportunity and excitement in a way, but it was soft, it was smooth, it had no edges to it, it was illuminating, began to allow opportunities and possibilities. It doubled the octave became bigger, had more possibilities, more presentation. This is this evolution. This is this journey that we are all on. It's happening to everybody. When you pause, kind of step back, take a breath, and notice that your play, the scenery is changing. But if you always do what you've always done, you're going to find that things get a little choppy because what you expect isn't there anymore. And so this lightening, illumination, this softening of choice, it kind of really became what was going on. But one other piece came about, imagination. Now, one of the constructs of the third dimensional game board is imagination isn't really a good thing because it doesn't fit the rules and the structures of the third dimensional game board. Now, all game boards have rules and structures. All games have rules and structures. The games in the third dimension are such that it's really rigid. The electromagnetic field is very dense. It's very tight. It doesn't have flexibility to a great extent. It has rules and structures that basically are held in place in such a way that they're just truths in most people's realities. They're just simply, this is how life works. Two of those truths in the third dimensional game board, absolutes, unequivocal, no possibility for change, not even a consideration that change could be possible, is time and death. Time, we all know time is, past, present, future, then you die. And that's linear time, and that's how the game plays. Neither one of these two truths are truths. Time is an application to be experienced. There's 5 different constructs of present time to be administered to your circumstances. But the one that's interesting is death. Now, nobody questions death. Death is absolute. You just die. Past, present, future, boom, die. Just how it is. Everybody accepts that's how it is. Doesn't like it. The two things you don't have enough of is you're running out of time and you're going to die. Neither are true. Well, let's use a little t, not a big T. So what is death? As you begin to approach this opportunity to think differently, there is actually no need to die. Oh, that's really outlandish. I mean, everybody dies. Well, what is death? So in that third dimensional game board, we play by the rules. And the rules, to a great extent, are in order for you to be successful, you have to go to them in order to get approval to be you. If they don't like you, that's not good. And so one of the things that happens on the third dimensional game board, and there's a reason we're all playing this game, we'll get to at the end, is on that game board, we give up seniority to the game. Seems what we do. And part of the game was, can you live your own life? Well, it's hard when they tell me I'm not okay. They don't hire me. They don't give me an A on my test. They don't approve of me. When they don't approve of me, it's very hard to be the love that I am, the joy, the excitement, the curiosity, the fascination, the enjoyer of the backdrop and the staging. In fact, I don't really even notice the backdrop and the staging because I get up, I go to work, I go to bed, I get up, I go to work, I go to bed. Take a breath, because we're playing in an environmental field of light that is disrupting exactly what we're talking about as it's being talked about. So what is death? Death is that aspect of you, me, that does not hold attention on the love that we are, the joy that we are, the excitement, the fascination, the curiosity. What happens when I start to believe them, I drop out of the love that I am. And I begin to give credibility to I'm not okay, and I'm not that smart, and I don't really fit in, and I'm not as good as them, and they really know more than I do. Those vibrations that begin to hit the body, that disappointment, that giving up love, that pain, that anger, that resentment, that jealousy, all of a sudden those vibrations in that very dense electromagnetic field begin to fill into the cells. And the cells lose light. They simply you are not living in your light. And the light gets dimmer and dimmer, and the body begins to not have the fuel, the light. It begins to break down. The cells break down. The body breaks down. The light breaks down. And all of a sudden, there's no light, and the body ceases. Where we're in the process of playing, that is not necessary to be experienced again. Now, let's talk about the time piece. We'll come back to the death piece in a minute. But the time piece. So here we are at the new equinox point, this new reference point. And a number of things are happening. There is an acceleration, a vast acceleration that is occurring. And the acceleration is bringing about both opportunity and disruption. Now, the disruption piece, it's also bringing about expansion and opening. And in a way, it's giving you choices in 3D that allow you to step into a 5D, into that joy, into that octave, begin to allow the light to come back into the space. But the 3D game board is structured in such a way that we know what we know. I'm familiar with my labels. I'm familiar with my experience. And here is where I don't know what to do. If I can't quite get excited into possibilities and opportunities, Now you see you're dealing with a very specific vibration, a vibration of choice. And in this vibration, fear and excitement are identical vibration, same vibration. Fear steps back into doubt, uncertainty, instability, lack of curiosity, whereas excitement steps forward into possibility, opportunity, and yes, I can. So as this disruption, this light is coming in, it's interrupting how I've always done what I've always done. And the 3D side, it's getting more and more disruptive. Now there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala does lots of things, but one of the things it does is it understands fear and excitement. And if it's tuned to fear, it basically withdraws, it gathers its tribe, it builds walls, it doesn't expand. Does that sound like 3D today? Whereas this other expansion into the side of the amygdala, which is all about oneness, all about co-creation, cooperation, joy, laughter experiences. The amygdala is playing a big role in this shaping of the game. If the amygdala begins to have less fear, it automatically shifts to the side of well-being. So we're in this point where we're playing this game right now. This illumination that's coming into the game and coming into the octave really allows a person to just simply exhale, take a breath, and allow what is unfolding to unfold. Not a lot of work required, actually, just allowing. So where we are right now, the reason that beginning to be clear about what are your choices and how are you wanting to choose, you can't keep doing the same old. You're not going to get the same old results. Many didn't like those results anyway, but I didn't know what else to do. This illumination is beginning to present amazing opportunities. We'll talk about these in a moment too. But this aspect of this moment where we're playing in this equinox is very much about time, acceleration and time. Change in how death works is the result, but in time. So in this space, time, as you know it, the linear time, the 3D time, what's happening in that time frame, it's not going faster or slower. It has been assumed that all along. And in fact, you can slow time down and you can speed time up. It's not a complicated thing to do once you understand time is not fixed. But here, the time we're talking about now is it's expanding. And what you're going to start to experience is everything in your universe is going to start happening faster. Now, the time isn't changing. The acceleration of events is changing. And if you think about it, you used to order a package and it would go to UPS and it would take a week or so to get there. And then Amazon comes into the mix and you order it in the morning and they deliver it in the afternoon. Wow. Acceleration. But the acceleration that you're going to start to notice is I, in my old time frame, knew if I planned my week out, these things would happen on this schedule. What you're going to find is somebody's going to call you back a week earlier than you expected. You're going to find that the opportunity presents itself today, not next week. You're going to find that whether the opportunity is disruptive or opportunistic, it's going to happen faster. Opportunity, not time. One aspect of time that's coming into the mix. Third dimension, that experience is going to be very disruptive because people are going to be pushed into experiences. Now, the thing about this third dimensional space is it's not trying to disrupt your life negatively. It's giving you opportunity to let go of how you do what you do that doesn't support your experience. And so if you can step back and pause, and those of you playing and mastering alchemy, this experience that you've been having about getting rid of the noise and the backpack and the I'm not okay and don't deserve and nobody likes me, and realize that was never true in the first place. Why am I holding on to that? This space is going to accelerate the ability to let go of your stuff. But if you hold on to that stuff, continue to argue for your liabilities and for your limitations, you're going to be an unhappy camper. Because that energy is doing everything possible to push out of your space the vibrations that are causing you to die, the vibrations that are giving up your aspect of light, the vibrations that have distracted you from loving yourself. Loving yourself. So take a breath, because we're delivering this in a different environment and different energetic vibration than you've heard it before, those of you playing and mastering alchemy. But if you're in the process of stepping into the fifth dimension, there is opportunity and disruption here also. And the disruption is kind of fascinating. We are stepping into 2 time spirals, really began to come about last year in heaven's cross equinoxes. 2 time spirals. Time spirals. One of the spirals has a very accelerating aspect to it. It's something that is more long of a doubling, a 2, a 4, an 8, a 16, a 32, a 64, 128. And what happens is, if you're not paying attention, and if you are not observing and choosing, allowing yourself to step back, and you start jumping on without paying attention to this spiral, you're going to find that events are going to be occurring quicker than you may have wanted them to occur. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's just the greatness of your creativity, your excitement, your project all of a sudden presents itself, but you're not ready. So paying attention to this time spiral is going to be something that requires a little bit of maturity, a stepping back, a pausing, and curiousness as to how does this unfold. The question is, if I do this, what happens? If I do that, what happens? And then choose to move forward. The other time spiral is more paced. It's more like a Fibonacci spiral. It's more like a golden mean spiral. But what this one does is it allows you to pause and observe what's being brought into your conscious awareness in a way that allows you to choose appropriately. Now, what I mean by that, and we'll get to this in a minute, is that consciousness, intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, in these time frames, these 2 time cycles, are such that it's as if you say, I would like to know about a car. Boom, the car shows up. But now when you say, I'd like to know about the car, every part of the car shows up fully conscious to you. You simply are looking at it and know what it is. You know the sequence of how it was constructed. You know where the part was manufactured. You know what the elements of the part actually are. And you get that piece of information all at one time. Kind of cool. Maybe. Now, it's very exciting because it is how you as a spiritual being already understand how to do it, but not from the third dimensional game board. So as you step into this fifth dimensional game board, it begins to accelerate. Now, let me say that again. If you are able to, as you step in and pace what you're experiencing, total enthusiasm and excitement, there's no stop signs. You are the stop sign. It's all about you. This is your play. And so becoming conscious of being conscious, being able to manage your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your actions. And in a way, as many of you know, Kuthumi said to me a long time ago, you're going to come to a point where you're going to manage every thought, every emotion, every action, every instant of your existence. And back then it was like all I could do was to say, okay, I'm not there. You are beginning to approach that point. Now, it doesn't require thinking. Let's go a little bit further in this. Consciousness is all that is. Now, if you can begin to change the label. Now, just hear this softly as a piece of information, those of you who haven't played here. Consciousness and God are the same thing. Allah, all that is, creator being, supreme being, however you define all that is, it is consciousness. It plays out at infinite numbers of labels, possibilities, combinations, infinitely. On the third dimensional game board, we're so conditioned to playing the game and the rules and structures by the linear time, by the sense of death, by the other people approving of me and I'm not okay. The ability to even begin to approach this part of the conversation does not exist. You have to step out of the third dimensional game board into this octave, beginning to allow that architecture to begin to be your frame of reference, the joy, the ease, the buoyancy, the lightness, the new colors, the illumination, the imagination. Now just think about that. If you began to live from that place, from certainty and capable and gracious, would you be playing a different game? The answer is very much yes. So now let's talk about, or bring into this conversation, something that's going on. You are starting to access all that you are. You are starting to access all that you've ever been. And in this space where we begin to get on that paced spiral, if that's the choice, you begin to draw into you knowledge and wisdom, information that you've always had. It's where you are now beginning to merge one with consciousness, that higher self, that higher mind, that alignment that allows you to pause and observe and simply know what you've always known. Now, here there is something going on that if you view it from 3D, it causes a lot of disruption. We're going to call it artificial intelligence. But one of the very first things that consciousness said when it said we're going to begin to speak in intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom is there is nothing artificial about intelligence. But here you are, you're beginning to be presented with templates and frames of references and successes and understanding of how intelligence works. And so you're watching it in large language models. You're watching it in extraordinary means of figuring things out. You're watching it begin to do things that are not possible in 3D. Are you aware that in the last week, a man had a transfer of a kidney from a pig into his body, and it worked? Now, animal parts and human parts are almost identical, but the genetic structures and the adoption of well-being, it doesn't match, has never matched well. But what they did, artificial intelligence, something called CRISPR, they were able to go and take the mismatched genes and simply splice them out of the DNA and basically bring this level of sustainable life to this human. Now, there was a time when people lived 800 years, 900 years, 1,000 years. That was very real. It was in a different density and a different electromagnetic field and a very different time construct. Atlantis, very real in a different vibrational frequency. We'll talk about Atlantis in a moment. And so these technologies that are presenting, one of the things is you're just beginning to be aware of what's possible. But everything that is being constructed in terms of the technologies and the functions of the technologies is already how you think as a spiritual being. It's not new. Every technology comes out of consciousness. Now take a breath. So you're also going to see in this presentation of artificial intelligence a massive disruption of how everything that we have lived on the game board, functioned on the game board of 3D, is about to change. Everything. And it's all going to happen all at once. It's just now beginning to be made conscious. But the activities are so accelerated that things are going to happen. Like Amazon delivers your package an hour after you order it. In this case, let me give you one example. BMW is using artificial intelligence to create a car. And they say to artificial intelligence, we'd like this car. Can you tell us how to manufacture this car? And the artificial intelligence builds the factory in time space, outside of physical space, builds the factory, all of the parts to make this car. And then it runs thousands, tens of thousands simulations to make sure that the factory and the car work and that the car does what it's supposed to do. When that piece gets all done and running, BMW within 10 months can build not only the car, all the factories necessary all over the world to make the car. 10 months. That knowledge to create, to imagine, to illuminate is who you are. Can you see why this point, this moment in time, is a doubling of the speed, doubling of the consciousness, doubling of your ability to start to notice who you are? And you can't do what you've always done because you will definitely get different results. So this division is happening in such a way that those that are arguing for their limitations are going to find their world challenging. Those that are trying to hold on to power, control, domination, imposition over another are going to find it harder and harder. The world is entirely waking up. people are on the move. They are moving away from fear. They're moving away from climate problems and food. They're moving away from domination. They're moving to a better state of being. And that's only the way they can express it, is the motion is in place. Now, take away the circumstances. Every one of these people who are moving to something better. And now there's you. There's all those people holding on, challenging time. The movement is opening very quickly, demanding a difference in physicalness. People are moving. But here's another part where it gets very interesting. And it's where we started the question, who are you? Why are you here? What's your purpose? Why are you on this call and not out playing golf or cooking or worrying about the kids? Why are you on this call? Now, take a breath. We're going to play here in a minute. There's another component of time that is coming into play. If you recall at the beginning, I said there are 5 aspects of present time. They're all applications to be used in creation, not to be believed as a truth in the only way. One of these time configurations, we'll call it for a label, the fourth application of time. For you, this is going to become something game changer as it's understood. When you go into this octave and you relax and you take a breath and you decide to become right now present, quiet, and aware. Do that right now. Just take a breath, stop thinking, and would you be clear? Would you notice you're right here? You're not in breakfast, you're not in dinner, you're right here. And would you allow your mind just to be quiet for this next few seconds? And would you be aware that you're sitting here, present and quiet? And another slow breath. Now just notice that most likely got quiet, present, and aware pretty quickly. Now, if some are doing other things and not paying attention, no problem, but if you're paying attention, take another breath. And notice what happened. Now, in this space, as you begin to allow in that octave, what happens is the love that you are just simply presents. All of a sudden, a smile happens, a relaxation happens, I become comfortable. If I can allow myself not to think and jump into the past or the future, I can bring my attention to beauty, a laughter. I can feel amusement in my space. So it's kind of in the background maybe, but I can begin to recognize choices that maybe I haven't recognized for a long time. How often do you just comfortably laugh at nothing, admire beauty, feel admiration for something you're looking at or somebody doing something and needing nothing other than that feeling? You see, that's you stepping out of death. That's you stepping out of time. That's what is now being presented in these next waves of illumination, moving from the feminine side, the flow and the swirl and the ease, and there's no limitations. There's no particular structure. There's nothing that says you must or you can't. You see, this is remembering who you are. It's not inventing something new. In this space, this fourth aspect of time begins to be an enormously valuable tool and experience. You see, in this space, the more you get rid of those of you I haven't played, those of you in Mastering Alchemy, you've got rid of an awful lot of the fears and doubts, and I'm not okay, and I don't deserve. You've been wise enough to recognize this isn't even me, and cleared it off the table. But this, and you played with the eighth ray, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth rays. You've been turning on that eye of Horus so you can combine all those spiritual, psychic abilities that you have into the ability to observe in present time and then make a choice. But this fourth aspect of time does something really interesting. It begins to allow you to see into, let's call them lightly, because it's not a proper label, past lives, future lives. It allows you to begin to see all of the constructions of the soul extensions. The soul created those 12 extensions of itself, you being one, the 11 others, and they have, let's lightly call it, lifetimes. You have interaction with others called mothers, fathers, genetics, genetic lines, all through time. As you get very quiet, present, aware, and in this octave, and this intelligence starts to be remembered, your knowledge starts to be remembered, the wisdom of why you're here starts to be validated. What happens is it's as if all of that lays out on the table in front of you. And there is no thinking right or wrong. There's no duality. And there is no emotion. And there is no labels. It's just simply everything. Now, do you need to know all of that? No, because all of it's not important, because the way this works is I don't need to know everything I've done. I just want to do what I want to do. I want to create. After all, I'm a creator being. And so this is what I want to create, you say, whatever it may be. My favorite example is I want to create this wonderful vegan chocolate cake with a cashew butter raspberry topping. Oh, that's a little complicated. It's not just you throw some flour and sugar together, see what happens. Your creations. But what happens is, what do I need to call on to make that perfectly wonderful creation? And the pieces that are required show up. Everything is on the table, but I don't need that past life information. I don't need to know what I gained from being the king or the prostitute. That's not part of my cake. And so it sits there, those pieces. But everything that is in the way, I don't know how to cook, and I don't know what the temperature is, and all of that doubt, it's not necessary in the creation either. And so that you just kind of push to the side also. But the fascinating part is you remove it from the table. The I'm not okay, who I never was, is removed from the table. There's no work involved. There's no emotion. There's no justification. There's no resentment. There's no failure. There's no lack. There's simply that vibration of excitement because the fear has just been moved away. And in the excitement, there's an illumination. And in the excitement, there's possibilities. And there is opportunities in the excitement. Making that cake. Take another breath, because we're now in a very different energy field, if you notice You may have just gotten quieter. It's in this fourth aspect of time, as we begin to play, we'll touch on it in a minute, is there's no work to creation as you have experienced in the third dimensional game board. It becomes very valuable because for many of you, when you begin to answer the question, who am I? And a bigger question, why am I here? And a bigger question, what's my purpose? As you begin to play in the octave, as the illumination, the imagination, the opportunity comes to play, the fourth aspect of time comes to play, the choosing, because you are wise enough to choose, that time spiral that takes you into a pathway, everything changes. Now, everybody's going home. Some are going a little slower than the others. The ones that are arguing for those limitations, they're over there doing what they're doing, and they're all going home, because something you really want to remember is I am them and them are me. You are them and they are you. One, no separation. So why am I here? Well, it's an interesting thing. There are some here from all that is that are spectators. I say that with great reverence. They're so excited about the game that they came to simply engage in the game. Now, they could be poor, they could be homeless, they could be beautiful, they could be all kinds of things, but their life is really kind of simple, not complicated, not lots of creation. It just simply moves along. And a lot of those great beings, they're going to end this game and they're going to blend back into all that is as oneness. No definition, just love and light and oneness of consciousness. Great place. Everything's available. Then there's another group that many of you, very possibly, that are going to leave the body. Now, even in this fifth dimensional space, there's more to death. It's not called death at this point. There's a point where this body is kind of old. It's been beaten up. It's been damaged. And there really is no reason to take this body. And so you're going to find, as you play more and more in this awareness, in this expansion, intelligence, knowledge, the wisdom of what you know, you're going to find that the ability to just simply, without any effort and drama, take a breath, one breath in, one breath out. You simply are the same. No, same, wrong word. You are you. There was no drama over here, hanging on over here, arguing for over here. It's just simply, I'm going to step into my next part of the chapter of my play. Now, again, another breath, because we just changed the energy once again. Just quiet, present, aware. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. That second group. You see, you're excited about this also, and you came to have this experience and to play the game at the ending time, because this is like the final chapter of the story in real terms. Some parts will drag out, some parts, the party will be over, some parts still need to be cleaned up afterwards. Most everybody goes on to the next party. It's kind of how it is. That second aspect of choices. There are as Yeshua said, there are many houses, many mansions in my Father's house, many layers of consciousness, many realms of consciousness. Many of you come from different realms with different tasks and different means of service, opportunities. And you've come here to kind of explore this final chapter of the game, participate in it, get it all over you. And then when this play closes, you go back to service too, those great realms of consciousness, wherever you may be, the lords of light, the different alignments of service. And then there's a third group of you. I think I can say comfortably of you. Take another breath. You see, this is the group that Yeshua was talking about. All deeds I do, you can do also. This group, you, creator beings, the ability to create. That aspect of creator, called love, has been called Christ consciousness. It was, again, never about a man. It was never about a church. The church did everything it could to create the third dimension. You go back to the 5th century, and the Pope Pius, basically looked at the New Testament and threw out most of what Jesus said, because that was about freedom and independence and creation and joy and happiness and individually being love. That got in the way of control, domination, power over, and guilt. So here, maybe this is you. Why are you here? It's not from a lesser standpoint, it's from a larger standpoint. I came to master myself. I came to become masterful at this point in time, activating that consciousness in that octave, that 5th dimensional space, all of that AI that is natural consciousness to me, turning it on and beginning to be the love that I am, illuminating this level of light. And so what are you doing? I'm learning how to radiate love, not randomly, but organizing vibrations, changing the frequencies of thought, altering the harmonics of matter, and applying the elements of love. The ability to stand into a room and change the room, where people just kind of begin to forget the anger, the rage, the resentment. And so there's still a whole lot of time, opportunity, time being just this physical space in front of each one of us. But what this equinox is bringing forth, and you're going to see it begin to accelerate through the next 6 months, is the ability to become conscious and aware as the higher self in a physical form. Functioning with the ability to alter the frequencies of thought, anger, rage, resentment, guilt, victim, just by being in the presence of others. Some will take that to a large level and begin to do it in large ways. You still don't know that part. Some will do it in small ways. But what you're in the process of doing is, this is a training period, mastery school, in a manner of speaking. This is a stepping stone for those of you who are, let me just label this, but I'm not meaning to label it in this way. Many of you already are of the archangelic realm. Many of you already are aspects of those lords of light. You're remembering. And this space that you step into, very similar to where Yeshua, for example, is this kind of amazing being among all beings. There's another level of consciousness where Yeshua exists as Sananda. There's another level of consciousness where it's expressed even more. But it's in the category of creator being. And so where we're playing right now is very much about you beginning to become conscious and aware. It's going to happen quickly if present and quiet and choosing. There's going to be very loud distraction in the third dimensional game. A lot of disruption from trying to, from that amygdala, that side of the brain that's gathering everybody up to building moats, saying we have to take care of the past again. They're going to have a hard time hanging on to their truths that simply are not truths. Now, plus or minus, hear that simply. There's no prediction. I'm failing at turning this off. Oh, I have to turn off. Sorry. Take another breath. Now, that being you, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to hear that? Do you walk away and say, well, that was interesting, but... Or do you simply sit quietly in this space that's being created all around you, the octave? Happy, quiet, present. The fascinating challenge of stepping into this new accelerating timeline is it's going to open up awareness. And it's going to come fast in many cases. It's just like I described all the parts of the car. You think you were just asking, how do you make a car? And you get all of the pieces at one time. So take a breath, if you would. And let's just take a couple more minutes and experience that octave. Take a breath and sit back. And would you find the smile that's in the heart? It's not hard, it's just right there. It's never gone away. And would you just simply have an intention? And nothing has to happen here, just an intention of knowing myself. And would you quietly just be aware of that smile? And would you simply stop thinking? Just, even if your eyes are open, just observe without thinking. And allow that smile just to be inside, a little bigger, maybe on your mouth, but inside, just a little bigger, quiet smile. And there's a power here, a strength that's right here. Relaxed, it just is there. And out of this smile, if you would just notice, it may feel like a sense of warmth. It's very subtle, this illumination, this flow, this ease, this comfortableness. It's like a pleasant day with nothing to do, and yet it's just in the background. You may feel it in the spine. You may feel it in the body. It's a warmth, possibly. Maybe a little bit of electricity. And would you intend right here just to, without knowing what this means many times, to just be one with the higher self. It's just quiet. Comfortable. And there's a joy. There might be an amusement. There might be that smile has a little bit of laughter possibly to it. This is the octave. And in this octave, there's nothing wrong. There's friends and joy and wonderful music and friends. Just kind of feel that. And then, without doing anything, would you consider just having a glimpse at all that you have ever been? Now, no emotion, no thought, just simply a glimpse. It's as if it just lays out right here before you. There's no time on it. There's no it's really big. It's simply, here I am. And there's a wisdom here. See, so much of the experiences at all levels we've had was to gain wisdom, knowledge, an intelligence to be the creator being, to have experience. That's it, have experience. Yeah, another breath. And here's everything. And there's no good, and there's no bad, there's no right or wrong, there's no failure. There really is experience, knowledge, wisdom. And in this fourth aspect of time, you just get presented with information. And you have a purpose. I'm not sure what the purpose is. I don't need to know what the purpose is. But right here, my intention is to begin to know my purpose and be able to act upon it effortlessly. Now, without no expectations, with that intention, would you just allow everything in the third dimensional space that doesn't fit into that intention, just allow it to kind of fall off the table. There's no work. There's no effort here. It's simply knowing from wisdom You see, you don't push it off the table. It just moves off the table. See, in this level of awareness, in this accessing the higher self, just keep it simple, part of you. Moving into this realm, this alignment, this configuration of consciousness, you, in this room, if you would, this aspect where you're conscious. There's wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, and it's very smooth. It just flows. Would you allow yourself to have this? Just allowing. See, here, time and space and gravity, activity, consciousness, wisdom, all pass through this point, you, right here. And if you would allow yourself to rearrange the pieces on the table, that I'm not okay has no value to my purpose. And where it did have value was to play it out and then recognize it. You've succeeded. I no longer need this for my purpose. Quiet, present, aware, happy, just that joy in the octave. Put your attention on joy and laughter. Think about being in a large lobby where everybody's enjoying themselves. And as you feel this comfortable joy, excitement, there's an excitement, would you simply recognize yourself? This is who I am. And this is why I'm here. To begin to draw on my knowledge, wisdom, and basically be 100% in service to others while I am 100% in service to myself. Same 100%. Because I am you and you are me. And as you hold this light, I become illuminated. As we hold this light, those in that third dimensional experience, not only on this planet, but in many additional realms, begin to step away from what is on their table. So another breath. This is not a one-time experience, but it is stepping into a space where this becomes the experience. Over the coming days, months, this experience is going to become more tangible to you in your purpose. We are no longer where we have been. You're passing through this octave, becoming conscious of yourself as a spiritual being in a physical form. So would you find that sense of being pleased with yourself, comfortable with yourself, that sense of the smile in yourself, happy with yourself? There's no other pieces here on this table. And would you be aware of, although it's not brilliant in its presentation, this subtle illumination? And would you choose to become one with this level of light? Kind of beginning to step into a time spiral, unlike anything that has been experienced in the third dimensional game. And one more breath. Comfortable, happy. And while you're holding this, would you be aware of the room that you're sitting in? Would you be aware of the toes on the end of your feet? With a smile, a sense of strength. And would you recognize this is now a flow of light in a different time configuration? And would you just quietly breathe your eyes open without leaving right here? And there's a strength. Would you notice the strength? There's a power, an illumination within. Just enjoy it, nothing to do with it, but recognize. So this is a lot. I got that. And yet, this is simply the next step of where we are all playing in the game. I'll say for those of you who are, sidebar, coming to the Bristol conference, this is very much the Bristol conference from here moving forward. So, and I think there's only 8 or 9 seats left to that, just saying that out loud for those of you in Mastering Alchemy. Take another breath. We're on a new path in Mastering Alchemy, in life itself, for all. And this is a direction that's going to be presenting. If you can begin to recognize how you are becoming conscious of the large vastness of who you are, and it's going to happen quickly, a place that will be quite exciting. So allow me to stop right there. If you have questions, send them to Mastering Alchemy. And we will play at this in the summer solstice, which is shaping up to be very expansive, more so than even now. It's basically going to start rearranging that third dimensional game in ways that you will be able to imagine, but you cannot imagine at the moment. You're going to see circumstances arise that you never thought of that are going to change the game. So, with that said, go away, enjoy yourself, start to pay attention to your new sleep space, and we'll see you again for the summer solstice. Blessings.